Hello, my name is Brad Hoggard, and for the past couple of weeks, I've been researching the differences in education that somebody in an urban, more diverse community would receive versus somebody in a more suburban school. I came to this conclusion by reading an article that talked about how the youth of America wants to censor racial slurs more often than the older generations, such as Generation X and the baby boomers. And going on to read a second article about how librarians were being suppressed and how a Jewish community was being entirely shut down and suppressed. I came to the conclusion that yes, obviously there are disadvantages to being someone of diversity in this country. And because of that, I wanted to figure out where they were to, that more personalized to me. And as a high schooler in America, and someone who is considered average in a school such as Carmel, but would excel in a school in central LA or downtown Indianapolis, I wanted to know why. And so I asked the question, to what extent do African American students receive the same opportunity to receive a valuable education? And one of the main issues I ran into while doing my research was the uh, definition of valuable. And I came down to and made I came to the conclusion that it was based off of two things mainly. One was the funding of the school. Did they get enough funding to get a valuable education? And then the second one was the quality of the teachers. If you have a teacher who's never taught anything in their life, then obviously the quality of it's not going to be as high as someone who's been teaching for 30 years. And so we start first with school funding. Now, most states in America have done a system called the pure pupil system, where each student in the state gets a designated amount. An example would be, say, each student gets $5,000 to do this or $5,000 to do that, and in urban schools, that $5,000 would go more towards transportation and less towards advanced placement programs, and it would go more towards the free lunch programs and less towards the teacher salary. And because of that, they weren't able to get the same quality compared to urban or suburban schools, where the funding would go to those AP classes and paying the teacher salaries to draw them in. So because of that, they didn't receive the same opportunity. And then once you go to the quality of teachers, the quality of the teachers is, like I've said before, is not the same. The only teachers they can really get to ever work in these urban run-down schools, I guess you could call them, would be the new teachers desperate for a job. You're not going to get a teacher who's been working for 30 years and just wanted to go somewhere else come to these urban schools. They want a safe, relatively calm environment, and they have these preconceived notions that urban schools are not going to provide that to any extent. And honestly, they just can't afford them. Like these urban schools, going back to the funding, they can't afford to bring in good teachers. They can only pay the minimum salary compared to, again, somewhere like Carmel, where they could pay them top dollar. And so because of this, I've come to the conclusion that no, because of these two variables, the education in urban schools is not to the same quality and is not as valuable as the education in suburban schools. And so I came up with two different ways you can solve this issue, and one would be a money pool. Now, it works similar to an insurance fund. So you pay your dues. Everybody gets every student, say they get the $5,000. That all goes into a large pot that the state would have, and any schools could request to take money from that. So urban schools need to have more money to improve the advanced placement program. They could request permission to take $15,000 out, and if it gets approved by the state, then they could use that money, and maybe they would give less money to suburban schools, but that would be a sacrifice that would have to be made. But that would also be a major limitation because suburban schools don't want to give up their extra money. They like being able to start several clubs and improve several programs and have the top-notch everything. So being able to get that past these suburban schools would be very difficult in regards to making this plan. However, if you show the benefits of everything in the future, I'm sure there'd be ways to convince suburban students and suburban teachers that this is the right choice and this is what is best for our country. And the second solution I came up with would be urban programs to improve life in cities. Now, there were many issues with urban life in America. Obviously, there's a lower discretionary income, meaning people are more poor and below the poverty line more often. And a statistic I found was that if you are poor at any point in your life, you're 11% less likely to graduate high school. And if you're 11% less likely to graduate high school, that means you might have children, and that are 5 times less likely to graduate high school and go to college. Because if you have parents who manage to graduate high school, then you are 5 times more likely to have a son or daughter that graduates high school and college. And if you can manage to get these people to graduate high school and have these children who are going to high school and finishing high school and going to college and finishing college, then you can raise the average discretionary income of everybody. There's nobody that wouldn't be available to this. And if you get more people making more money, then there'd be less money going towards the transportation, because maybe they could afford cars and maybe they can afford their own lunches. And if they can do that, then they can focus more on the advanced placement programs and any other program that really needs to be improved. And if you can do that, then again, the opportunity for a valuable education is there. Like, it's an equal opportunity. And one of the major limitations is this would take an extremely long time. This isn't going to happen in the next 20 years. This will take 3 or 4 possible generations. This can take 50, 100 years, and they don't have time for another 50 or 100 years of suffering in urban cities. It's not fair to them. They need the equal opportunity. All right, once again, my name was Brad Hoggard, and I thank you for my time.